I'd been neurally linked to Chase, an S-Class Sentinel, for 10 years. And for the third time, he abandoned me during a mission. 1 second before the explosion, he brushed past me, throwing his body over a B-Class female guide to shield her. He turned his head and yelled, "Hold on, bro." But what flashed through my mind was the vow we made during our bonding ceremony a decade ago. Starting today, Spencer, you are my priority one. Always. After I was discharged from the ICU, I signed the dissolution papers with a blank expression. When Chase heard the news, he was too busy celebrating his victory to care. I've been brothers with him for 10 years. He's not gonna bail over something this small. He'll be mad for 3 or 4 days, then he'll get over it. Come on, everyone, meet the future Mrs. Brooke. 3 days passed, then another 3. I didn't go see Chase. Not until his mindscape collapsed, sending him into a feral state. The guards had to physically restrain him outside my clinic door. He roared, his eyes bloodshot, "Spencer, I'm your best friend. You said I was your priority one. Open the damn door and help me." I kept my voice strictly professional. "If you book an appointment now, the next opening is in 6 weeks. Xander walked out of the clinic, standing between us. "General Brooke," Xander said, "a guide's priority one is always the sentinel they are bonded to." He paused, then wrapped an arm around my waist, pointing a thumb at his own chest. "And right now, that's me." It was the 10th year of my neural link with Chase. I had finally made up my mind to ask him if he wanted to make the bond permanent, complete union. I planned to ask right after the rescue mission for the A-Class hostages. The mission was originally rated C-Class, but after we lost 2 B-Class squads, it was bumped up to A. As we led the team into the quarantine zone, I said, "Dinner tonight? I have something to tell you." Chase slung an arm around my shoulder, grinning. "It's just food. Why so formal? You want to do a candlelight dinner for 2 bros?" I smiled but didn't answer. I had, in fact, reserved a table at a romantic restaurant. The hostage rescue was a success. We even managed to pull out the colleagues who had been trapped. But in a desperate final act, the kidnappers hurled explosives at us. I turned to run, but a shadow lunged past me from the side. The camo paint on his face was familiar. I'd applied it to Chase myself just 12 hours ago. Chase sprinted toward the B-Class female guide, shielding her as they dove out of the blast radius. The last thing I heard was Chase's voice. "Hold on, bro." The heat wave from the explosion flipped me into the air and slammed me onto the ground. Before my consciousness faded, I forced a bitter smile. Again, my brain replayed his heated vow from 10 years ago. "Spencer, you are my priority one. Always." How ironic. I thought to myself, this 10-year one-man show really needs to close its curtains. I woke up in the ICU. My comms terminal was flooded with unread messages. Just trying to tap the screen sent a jolt of agony through the wound on my back. I groaned, cold sweat soaking my bangs. The attending physician told me that if the shrapnel had been an inch to the left, my spinal nerves would have been completely severed. Lying in a sea of pain, I struggled to open my messages. Not a single one was from Chase. I clicked on our squad's group chat. At the very top was a photo he'd posted 3 hours ago. In the picture, he stood center stage, beaming next to the B-Class female guide he'd risked his life to save. The caption read, "Mission accomplished. Great work, everyone. Let me introduce you to your future sister-in-law." Below it were a few interactions with the team. Someone asked, "Chase, how's Spencer doing?" Chase replied, "Just a scratch. A few days in the med pod and he'll be fine. He's a grown man, he doesn't need babysitting." Just a scratch. I stared at those words, and suddenly the wound on my back began to itch and burn. Kai, one of our squad members, chimed in, "Spencer is a guide, though. His physical constitution isn't like us sentinels. Maybe we should check on him." Chase replied, "Relax. He's an S-Class guide, he's not that fragile. Besides, even if he's pretty, he's still a dude. He's tough as nails." I stared at the screen. Even if he's pretty, he's still a dude. And suddenly, I started laughing. At first, it was just a silent twitch of the lips, but soon I was covering my face, laughing into my palms. The laughter was hoarse, like a broken bellows. Every vibration of my chest made the wound on my back feel like it was being carved open with a knife. My attending physician walked in. His gaze landed on my glowing screen, and he sighed, understanding immediately. Colonel Smith, General Brooke failed to prioritize your protection during the mission and has failed to visit during your critical care. Your preliminary dissolution application has been approved. Once you sign, the bond will be fully severed in 30 days. He handed me a datapad. My eyes slid from that glaring photo to the dismissive just a scratch, finally resting on the name Spencer Smith and Chase Brooke on the legal document. I picked up the stylus and signed my name, clear, forceful strokes. The doctor asked, "Are you sure you don't want to reconsider?" 10 years of neural bonding. I shook my head and whispered, "No need. He's abandoned me 3 times. The first time was for intel. The second time was for a superior officer. This time it was for a future sister-in-law he'd just met. There wouldn't be a 4th time." The doctor took the datapad, his footsteps fading into the empty corridor. The moment the door clicked shut, the mask of professional indifference crumbled. I tried to close the photo on my terminal, but the hand that had just signed the papers was trembling violently, my arm spasming uncontrollably. I used my other hand to pin it down, digging my fingernails into my palm, using the sharp pain to stop the tremors. Pain meant I was healing. "Starting today, Spencer, you have to learn to live for yourself." The dissolution application was rejected. I expected that. The person who rejected it was the chief guide, Dr. Sterling. His call came through immediately. "Spencer, we need to talk." I understood his position. Chase was the only S-class sentinel in the tower with a completely stable mindscape in the last decade. And I was the essential component maintaining that stability. Dr. Sterling wanted an explanation. He didn't save me during the mission. Sterling frowned. Even an S-class sentinel can't cover everything. He did it to save a B-class guide. According to Article 3 of the Sentinel Guide Code of Conduct, in any combat scenario, a sentinel must prioritize the protection of their bonded guide. He failed to do so. My request for dissolution is reasonable and lawful. Sterling was silent for a moment. One stable S-class sentinel is worth 100 A-classes. If you leave, who guarantees his stability? Chief, after the unbinding, I'm willing to work as a freelance guide. I'll perform mental regulation for any sentinel in the tower who needs it. Isn't that a net positive? Sterling sighed. Focus on recovering for now. The paperwork is moving. I'll figure something out. I didn't expect that the something he figured out would be a person. After 3 days in the ICU, Sterling sent someone to take me back to the dorms. A class sentinel, Xander Johnston. He extended a hand. S-class guide, Spencer Smith. I shook it. His palm was shockingly hot. I looked up, getting my first clear look at Chase's sworn rival. He was actually quite good-looking, tall, handsome, with tight pectoral muscles rippling beneath his camo tee. But sticking out of his mouth was a stalk of grass, an attempt at nonchalance that failed to hide the tension practically radiating off him. I could feel his inexplicable unjohnstonty and repressed longing. Interesting. Did Chase die? He needs me to be picked up by his rival? I grabbed my bag and walked ahead. He's not dead. I don't need an escort. Doesn't care about his own guide? General Brooke really is something else. He clasped his hands behind his head, his long legs easily keeping pace with me. I pressed the elevator button. We broke up. Unbinding is in progress. The sunlight slanted in, reflecting off the floor, blindingly bright. You're unbinding. Xander froze, nearly walking into the elevator door. The blade of grass fell from his lips. I turned to look at him and nodded. In the next second, he stepped in front of me with a wide stride. His burning fingertips grazed the back of my hand as he took my luggage without asking. The man who had been slouching a second ago snapped to attention, standing straight like a cheetah entering hunting mode. His free hand hovered naturally at my side, creating a barrier between me and the flow of people in the hallway. Let me reintroduce myself. His Adam's apple bobbed as he lowered his voice.
I'm Xander, Knelt.
Height, 6 feet 2 inches. Weight, 200 pounds. Body fat, 10%. Graduated with first-class honors from the Imperial Academy. Serving in special ops. Single. And bonded. He paused. Need any other measurements? I looked at my empty hand, then up at him. His handsome face was written with seriousness, but the tips of his ears were bleeding red. He looked like a peacock trying desperately to fan its tail while shaking with nerves. I smiled and played along. S-Class Guide, Spencer. On the way, I messaged Dr. Sterling, Chief, quit playing matchmaker. He replied instantly. Every year on his regulation request forms, Xander only fills in your name, but you never opened your slots. Data simulations show that if he bonds with a highly compatible S-Class guide, there's a high probability he'll evolve into an Ultra S-Class. Understood. Not random matchmaking then. I looked up at Xander, who was walking beside me so stiffly he was nearly marching. Xander, show me your spirit animal. I kept my voice deliberately cool. His breath hitched, his gaze locking onto me. He muttered, wait, then slammed his shoulder into the wall as we turned a corner with a heavy thud. Only after we entered my dorm and the door clicked shut did Xander brace himself. He closed his eyes and reluctantly released his spirit animal. Phantom blue light exploded, and a giant octopus instantly engulfed me. Cold, slick tentacles wrapped tight around my limbs, applying a faint suction. One of the boldest tentacles slipped into the slightly open collar of my shirt, its soft suction cups gently kissing the skin of my collarbone. My body went rigid. A strange shiver shot up my spine. Retract. Now. Xander's voice was hoarse and panicked. He rushed forward, clumsily batting at his own spirit projection, like he was wrestling with a darker version of himself. Seeing his embarrassment, I decided not to let him off the hook so quickly. I extended a finger and tapped the tip of the most unruly tentacle. The giant octopus and its owner shuddered in unison. Xander's throat worked heavily, suppressing a groan. Seems to really like me? I asked softly, my gaze bypassing the octopus to land on his face. Seeing the red rimming his eyes, I finally gave the order. Tactile sensation reduced by 50%. Olfactory reception off. Xander's body went from rigid to slack. The octopus slowed down, dissipating reluctantly. His chest heaved violently. Head bowed, sweat sliding down his temples. His voice was ragged. I'm sorry. It got a little out of control. It just really wanted to touch you. The air still held the sticky, restless residue of his mental overflow. Looking at his disheveled yet hungry expression, I calmly proposed, let's run a preliminary compatibility test. Xander's head snapped up, the light in his eyes instantly igniting. Can we? I nodded and pointed to the couch. Lie down. My terminal suddenly chimed. I sat down leisurely, opening the message right in front of Xander. Even if it was boring financial news, I was determined to read it. The target wasn't the news, it was Xander. A sentinel with amplified senses who just lost control, lying in the room of the guide he crushed on, suffering in silence. Interesting. Too interesting. The message was from Kai. Spencer, feeling any better? We're up against Squad 2 in the sim match next week at Training Ground A7. We're clueless. Our tactics get crushed every time. I could picture them scratching their heads. For the past 10 years, tactical planning had been my job. I pulled up a battle map from my files and sent it over. Use your firepower advantage. Force them into trench warfare. Kai kept messaging, bro, hurry back. Chase has been on dates every day, completely ignoring us. He finally showed up at the training ground yesterday, but his mental state was a mess. No one dared to talk to him. He got more agitated. Spencer, when was the last time you gave him a mental sweep? Last time? I thought back. Less than 2 weeks ago. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the man on the couch clench his fists. I could feel the burning gaze from the sofa practically drilling a hole through me. I replied, Kai, Chase's issues have nothing to do with me. Don't report to me about him anymore. Don't be mad, Spencer. You know how Chase is. Don't let it get to you. I sent him a screenshot of the dissolution application. I've already submitted my request for unbinding and transfer. After a thought, I packaged up years of combat data and simulation notes and sent them to Kai. The status changed to typing for a long time, but no message came. Kai, if you need guidance in the future, you can still come to me. My business with him has nothing to do with you guys. A moment later, Kai replied, Spencer, I'm an A-class Sentinel too. I paused, then shook my head with a smile. I didn't reply. I didn't think he'd actually say it. I put away the terminal. The room was terrifyingly quiet. Finally, the person on the sofa couldn't hold it in. His voice feigned casualness. Was that Chase? I didn't answer. I stood up and walked slowly to the sofa. He was lying on his back, completely exposed to my gaze. Thinking the test was starting, his body instinctively tensed. I stared at his face for a moment, then lowered my head, my gaze sliding over his Adam's apple, his chest, finally settling on his lower abdomen. I told you, I'm an S-class guide. My voice was calm. Xander's breath hitched, and he nodded. Guides are experts at sensing and influencing emotions. I reached out, my fingertip hovering near his temple. Even without touching, I could feel the heat radiating from his skin and the vein beneath his temple throbbing from a racing heart. And I am particularly good at it. He froze completely. When I was replying to those messages, you were jealous enough to lose your mind. The smile vanished from his face. And now you're panicking, I continued. You're wondering how I know everything, right? I pulled my hand back, crossing my arms as I looked down at him. Xander nodded stiffly. Why are you afraid? I leaned down, bringing my face closer to his, whispering. Does being seen through make you uncomfortable? Or are you worried I've discovered you've been secretly in love with me for 6 or 7 years? Xander's pupils constricted violently. He tried to dodge me, but moved too hard and rolled right off the sofa, hitting the floor. How did you cough? No? He choked on his own spit, coughing violently as he looked up at me. The blood had drained from his face, but a spark of excitement burned in his eyes. My mood improved significantly. Yes, I had known for a long time. The day Chase and I returned to our alma mater for a speech, the audience was full of newly awakened sentinels and guides. I could sense countless racing hearts and flying hormones. Xander was just one of them, but he was the only one who persisted this long. He followed our footsteps into special ops. Time and again, he provoked Chase on the training ground, getting beaten badly, only to come back for more. He was cold to Chase and even colder to me, but I always knew he liked me. Xander looked like he was about to combust, turning red from his face to his ears, down to his neck. If he took his shirt off, his chest would probably be pink too. Lie down. Don't move, I ordered softly. Xander froze, then obediently complied. He blinked up at me, asking haltingly, So, what do you think? I lowered my eyes, my voice devoid of warmth. A lot of people like me. I have no obligation to respond to every one of them. He wasn't discouraged. Instead, he laughed low in his throat, his chest vibrating. It doesn't matter. He licked his dry lips, his voice raspy, carrying an almost arrogant certainty. As long as you're not blind, you'll like me eventually. Xander thought I'd have to be blind to like Chase. He was wrong. Chase's actions once made me believe it was love. I only realized at the very end. Unspoken love is just rejection. But this guy in front of me, his heartbeat was roaring. His blood was burning. Every cell in his body was screaming for me. It was so loud. I leaned down, meeting those shockingly bright eyes. I didn't take the wrist he offered. Instead, slowly and forcefully, I slid my fingers between his, interlocking our hands. His palm was rough, hot as a branding iron. I felt his muscles instantly turn to stone. His breathing stopped. I whispered a command into his ear. Don't resist. Then I entered his mindscape. I plummeted into a violent sea. The moment I entered, my spirit projection was tossed by a massive wave and slammed into the abyss. Scalding seawater wrapped around me like countless slick tongues, licking at my mind. In the gaps between waves, I glimpsed shadows in the deep, massive tentacles churning, trying to drag me into a chasm of rage and destruction. Xander was on the brink of going feral. No wonder Dr. Sterling played matchmaker. I was secretly alarmed, but this wasn't the place for a deep sweep. I had to leave immediately. My consciousness snapped back to reality. My chest tightened, and a second later, a massive force yanked me down. I slammed onto his burning chest. Xander's eyes were blood red, his breathing heavy. One arm locked around my back, the other clamped onto my waist, his thumb digging hard into my side. I twisted to break free. He didn't budge. "Let go," I ordered coldly. "Sit up." He shuddered and immediately let go, sitting up straight and ducking his head like a dog that had chewed the furniture. I suppressed the faint nausea rising in my throat and asked professionally, "How long since your last deep regulation?" "Never," he mumbled. I frowned, tone serious. "Mental regulation is critical for sentinels. This is a medical procedure, don't overthink it." I tried. He looked up sharply. "But my mindscape rejects every guide except you." I dismissed it. "That's just because the guides weren't high enough level. Request an S-class." "It's not about the level." He stared at me, voice urgent. "It's because it's you." Seeing him about to explode, I decided to tease him. "Oh, have you tried other S-class guides?" "No," he said firmly, then hurriedly added, "and I never will." Dr. Sterling tried to set it up, but I refused. What if I matched high with someone else and got forced into a bond? Then I could never come to you again. He dropped his head again. I didn't believe a word of it, but I could stabilize him for now. Sensory input dialed down to 30%. I issued the command. Once he calmed, I spoke flatly. "Our preliminary compatibility is 90%. Xander's eyes lit up instantly. Ignoring his excitement, I continued, "I agree to provide regular regulation. Submit the application to the system." He started to say something, but I cut him off. "I just got out of the hospital.
I'm tired.
You can go." I stood up and walked toward the bathroom. When I came out wrapped in a towel, I paused. The living room was tidy. The jacket on the sofa was folded neatly. In the bedroom, the aromatherapy lamp I hadn't used in ages was glowing dimly, emitting a calming woodsy scent. On the nightstand was a nutrient shot and a glass of water at the perfect temperature. Next to it was a note, the handwriting bold and wild. "Good night. See you tomorrow." The night before the simulation match, Chase finally remembered me. My terminal was full of his unread messages. "Spencer, what's our tactic for this one? The files you sent Kai are wrong, these are old. You're slacking lately. Don't use your injury as an excuse. Work overtime tonight and finish it. We need it tomorrow." I didn't want to deal with him, but my transfer application was still processing technically. This was my job. He replied, "Fine." Wait, Chase sent a laughing emoji. "Come to my place tomorrow morning first. I need a deep sweep." I was confused. Didn't Kai tell him we broke up? Whether love existed or not was none of my business anymore. I stayed up late finishing the tactical plan, sent it over, and then blocked him. The morning of the match, I gave Xander his first regulation session. Performing a deep sweep for an A-class sentinel with a mindscape as unstable as his was like walking a tightrope in the eye of a storm. My mental tendrils probed into his violent mental ocean. One slip and the chaotic stream of consciousness would tear me apart. Sweat soaked my back quickly. Uncontrollable gasps escaped my throat. Just then, the terminal on the side table lit up. I had forgotten to cancel the setting that once symbolized absolute trust. Chase's calls were set to auto-answer on speaker. "Spencer, where are you?" The line went silent. He obviously heard my suppressed panting. "What are you doing?" His voice instantly turned ice cold. I couldn't get distracted. Xander's mindscape was whipping up a new wave. Under the immense pressure, I groaned in pain. "Spencer." Xander was in even more pain. Gritting his teeth, his voice was broken and raspy. I can't take it." That sound lit the fuse on the other end of the line. "Spencer Smith." Chase exploded with rage and disgust. "Hooking up with men first thing in the morning? Even if you want to sleep around, get your priorities straight. I am your sentinel. You should be here regulating me." His voice made my focus waver. Xander's mindscape seized the chance to counterattack. The violent wave nearly tore my spirit apart. I hissed in pain, my breathing spiraling into a moan. I know you like men, and I know how you feel about me. Chase's voice dripped with arrogance. But you don't need to find some random guy to provoke me. It just makes me sick. It makes me even less likely to ever want you. Now, finish your disgusting little affair and get your ass over here to regulate me. Finally, I completed the hardest part of the session. I snapped my consciousness back, feeling like I'd been dredged out of a lake, leaning on the clinical bed, gasping for air. Then, I picked up the still shouting terminal. My voice was hoarse, but my tone was flat. General Brooke, we are unbound. According to protocol, in 21 days, the irreversible dissolution agreement will take effect. You will receive a system notification then. Silence on the other end. Dead silence. 10 seconds later, Chase's roar exploded like a trapped beast. Spencer, explain yourself. What the hell do you mean unbound? I didn't give him a chance to continue. Good luck with the simulation match. I hung up. Don't I get a good luck? Xander sat up, staring at me intensely. Good luck, I said easily. You know Chase's opponent today is me, right? Xander pressed. I know. Then, his fingers unconsciously gripped the seam of his pants. Whose luck are you rooting for? I looked at him coolly. Luck is an excuse for the weak. He lowered his head, gathering courage, then asked, if I win, I will congratulate you. I cut him off. I knew what he was going to ask. If he won, could I like him? Or more, bond with him? Only idiots ask questions like that. I hoped Xander wouldn't act like an idiot. Who I liked had nothing to do with winning or losing. Will you come watch? He looked up again, the light returning to his eyes. I was surprised by his resilience. All officers ranked colonel and above with no active missions are required to observe. It's an order. Xander let out a breath and smiled. I forgot. Damn, must be the lack of regulation, brains fuzzy. He switched to a professional expression. Colonel Smith, thank you for your hard work today. When is the earliest appointment for the next session? I opened my terminal, swiped past a blank schedule, then closed it. 1 month. He leaned in closer. Can you squeeze me in, sir? I glanced at him sideways. Reason. He straightened his back, stating seriously, the applicant is the most handsome among all your clients. I scrutinized him for a few seconds, then nodded. Reason valid. Request approved. His eyes instantly blazed. Day after tomorrow, I said. Xander left, satisfied. The moment he walked out, my terminal lit up. Chase sent a message, you got guts. You better not show up at the match. I quietly took a screenshot, then forwarded the notice requiring officer attendance to the disciplinary committee. Report. General Brooke inciting subordinates to disobey military orders. That afternoon, I entered the observation deck and found a corner seat. My presence caused a stir. Colonel Smith? What's he doing here? Squad 1 is playing, why isn't he on the field? A familiar officer leaned over, whispering, Colonel Smith, you're not playing today. For the past 10 years, Chase's battlefield was my battlefield. Injured on a mission. Sick leave. I explained with a smile. Then who's filling your spot? He looked curious. Who's the lead guide for Squad 1 today? The class guide, Lila. I said the name calmly. When I saw the roster during tactical planning, I thought it was absurd. Chase picked the female guide he saved. His future misses using a B class guide to support an entire team of A-class sentinels. Luckily, this was just a simulation. Otherwise, he'd get her killed. Lila? The man looked blank. Never heard of her. I know her. Someone interjected loudly nearby. Chase's girlfriend. As the words fell, a cold glare shot over from the stage. Chase had spotted me. He looked at me, the corner of his mouth hooking into a silent, icy sneer. Following his gaze, Xander looked over too. The moment he saw me, his eyes lit up, and he started waving enthusiastically, looking ready to jump off the stage if I didn't respond. Meeting Chase's gaze, I gave Xander a small wave. Chase's eyes darted between us, and his sneer turned murderous. The countdown began. Chase and Xander attached their electrodes, preparing to enter the sim pods. General Brooke has a girlfriend? I thought you two were a thing. The officer next to me probed tentatively. We're best friends. I propped my head on my hand, looking up at the holographic screen. A second later, a high-quality business card appeared in front of me. Julian, S-Class Sentinel, Commander of the 3rd Army. The silent man beside me spoke up. Since General Brooke has a guide partner now, perhaps you need to reconsider your bonding status? Julian asked. I glanced at him. We've already unbound. Unbound. Gasps erupted around me. Consider the 3rd Army? Julian went straight to the point. We need an S-Class guide as a tactical core. Name your price. I glanced at the wedding ring on his finger and shook my head. Thank you, but right now I will only consider bonding with my own partner. That sentence was like a switch. Dead silence, followed by an explosion. Colonel Smith, a female sentinel in the row in front of me, whipped around. A plus-class sentinel, unmarried, ready for compatibility testing anytime. The dam broke. A hand landed on my shoulder. Colonel, let's exchange contacts. I'm sending my file. My terminal started vibrating madly with match requests from unknown numbers. Someone even dialed Dr. Sterling directly. Chief, I request immediate compatibility test with Spencer Smith. My quiet corner instantly became the eye of the storm. A piercing alarm rang out from the stage. The screen flashed a warning. Participant vital signs critical. It was Chase. He shoved away the technicians, showing the crushed electrode pad in his palm. The pad had shattered, causing the system to register an injury. His tight jaw and the nearly uncontrolled force field around him screamed pre-feral symptoms. I instinctively started to stand up, 10 years of instinct urging me to soothe him. But logic pinned me back to my seat. He wasn't my sentinel anymore. Chase replaced the pad, entering the pod with a dark expression. He looked at me again. Meeting his gaze, I offered a polite, distant smile. He froze, then returned the smile. His tense features relaxed instantly, looking incredibly handsome. He closed the pod. On the holographic screen, the simulated battlefield unfolded. My tactical plan was conservative. Use terrain for defense, prioritizing the protection of the B-class guide, Lila. But Chase ignored it. The moment the match started, the red dot representing Squad 1 abandoned all defense and charged straight into Squad 2's formation. It was our old signature move, the piercing strike. A tactic one only dared to use with a top-tier S-class guide supporting them. Sharp intakes of breath filled the observation deck. Chase lived up to his title as the God of War. 3 minutes in, he forcibly eliminated an opponent. The cost came 5 minutes later. Lila's neural network was completely shattered by his rampant mental energy. On screen, Squad 1's comms channel turned gray. They were blind and deaf on the battlefield. The tide turned. Squad 2 began picking off Squad 1 members one by one. In the blink of an eye, only Chase remained. Like a lion with its teeth pulled and claws broken, he searched frantically for Xander's coordinates. Stay out of this, Xander said over the public channel. He was going to duel Chase. I frowned. The goal of a match is to win. Dueling for ego was meaningless. Chase had lost it. Ignoring his mech's overload warnings, he pushed the machine to its limits in a suicidal frenzy. His attacks had no rhythm, just the fury to tear his opponent apart. Xander's calm technique crumbled before absolute, reckless rage. Boom! Chase took Xander's particle blade with his mech's left arm, pouring all energy into his right-hand beam saber, impaling Xander's cockpit in a mutually assured destruction move. The system's cold voice announced, Squad 2 Captain Xander, eliminated. Chase's mech paused for half a second, savoring the victory. But he forgot. This was a team sport. Behind him, 3 blue dots that had been lying in wait opened fire simultaneously. The mech that had looked invincible a moment ago froze, then collapsed to its knees. Squad 1 Captain Chase eliminated. Squad 1 total defeat. Match over. Winner, Squad 2. The observation deck was silent, then erupted in applause. When Xander climbed out of the pod, the first thing he did was look for me. I had my arms crossed. My expression probably wasn't great. His face cycled through several emotions before settling on a mix of guilt and shame. Waste of time, I mouthed. He saw it. Indeed. Tactically void, Julian stood up beside me, shaking my hand again. The Third Army's door is always open. Just then, a hand grabbed my wrist, the grip strong enough to crush bone. It was Chase. His eyes were blood red, staring dead at me. Julian, Chase's voice was ice. You dare touch my guide? The observation deck went instantly quiet. Everyone froze. Chase didn't care about being the center of attention. Like a cornered beast, he spat venom recklessly. He glanced at the ring on Julian's hand, then glued his gaze to me, smiling with malice and contempt. You won't even spare a married man? Spencer, just how desperate for a man are you? Oh, excited whispers broke out behind us. A public breakup between a top sentinel and guide. If I weren't the protagonist, I'd be enjoying the show too. Anger pricked my brain like a needle, but I suppressed it. General Brooke, you are on the verge of going feral. That's because of you, he roared. You abandoned your post. You refused to regulate me. I didn't argue. I looked into his eyes and spoke clearly. Look at me. Execute command. Deep breath. Lower heart rate to 70. Disable visual input. 15 minutes. The madness in his eyes receded like a tide, leaving only emptiness and confusion. I let go, allowing the medics rushing over to carry him away. Apologies for dragging you into this. I turned to Julian. Julian smiled meaningfully. No trouble. My offer stands. After he left, countless business cards were shoved in my face. My terminal wouldn't stop beeping. I pushed through the sea of awe and greed, looking up to see Xander on stage. He wore the medal of a victor, but his eyes were locked on me. There was worry, pain, but mostly a fiery pride that said he's with me. I looked away and walked out. Only when the scalding water of the shower hit me did I feel alive again. The public fallout with Chase put me in an awkward spot. The scandal would follow me like a shadow. I couldn't go to the Third Army. It would hurt Julian and hinder me from finding a new sentinel. I needed a new sentinel. A real one. My sentinel. Inevitably, Xander's eyes flashed in my mind. A class sentinel, 90% compatibility, and that undisguised love that threatened to burn everything down. But that love was exactly why I was wary. It was too similar. Too like what I thought I saw in Chase's eyes 10 years ago. Couldn't gamble. I couldn't afford to lose again. Deep in my body, the binding heat suppressed for 10 years was slowly waking up due to the severing of the bond. Chase's words haunted me like ghosts. We're brothers. Best partners. If you were a girl, I'd have totally gone for you. But I'm a man, and he's straight. Before leaving for that mission, I booked the Garden Restaurant, planning one last effort. I didn't expect fate wouldn't even give me the chance to speak before sentencing me to death. If that's how it is, I dried off and walked to my terminal. Logging into the Imperial Guide Center backend, I found the option that had gathered dust for 10 years. I clicked enabling my public regulation availability. The day after the match was Xander's deep sweep day. He sat on the clinic bed, uniform buttoned tight, but his rigid posture betrayed his nerves. Spencer, he started. I saw. You opened the public booking system. He asked with difficulty, are you planning to be a freelance guide? Are you considering bonding with someone else? I adjusted the instruments without looking up. This is our third conversation. Are we close enough to discuss this? More than 3, he countered immediately, counting our few intersections. You spoke at the academy. I asked a question. I got lost as a recruit. You pointed the way. And the match? What's your point? I interrupted. If you're reconsidering a partner, he took a deep breath. I hope you prioritize me. Neural binding or physical union, either is fine. The clinic was terrifyingly quiet. His cheeks were flushed, staring at me stubbornly. That perverse amusement rose in me again. I put down the instruments, walked up to him, lowered my gaze, and whispered using his own intro. So what are the measurements? He shuddered, burning red from face to neck. I was satisfied. Unbutton, I said calmly. Attach the monitors. His fingers were clumsy, fumbling twice before undoing the first button. Shirt open. Sure enough, his firm chest was a tempting shade of crimson. I held the cold electrode pad, reaching out. Just as the metal was about to touch his skin, a hot hand grabbed my wrist. I raised an eyebrow at him. Xander gripped my hand and pressed it directly against his chest. Under my palm, his heart beat like a war drum, numbing my fingertips. He lowered his eyes, lashes trembling, voice raspy. You can check yourself. This wasn't a hint, it was an invitation. I smirked. Under his nervous gaze, I pulled my trapped hand back. As his eyes dimmed, I used my other hand to cover his burning chest directly. His body snapped tight like a bowstring. My fingertips traced the trembling muscle lines, then, with deliberate malice, slid lower. Don't move, I whispered in his ear. Let me check thoroughly. As my palm settled, he yanked me toward him. Hot, wet lips crashed against the side of my neck. Not a kiss, but an anxious, claiming bite. His chaotic mental field swept over me like a storm, full of primal desire and insecurity. I let him act for a few seconds, then put a hand on his shoulder and firmly pushed him away. Xander let go, eyes full of regret and panic. The air still held his scorching scent, triggering a heat in my lower abdomen. Damn it. I suppressed the urge, took out an alcohol swab with a poker face, and slowly wiped the teeth marks on my neck. Like cleaning off dirt or building a barrier of calm. I threw the used swab in the bin and gave a diagnosis. Sentinel mental fluctuation pre-regulation causing behavioral loss of control is normal. Don't blame yourself. The blood drained from Xander's face. I sat back in my rolling chair, crossing my legs to hide the physiological reaction, regaining control. Now lie down, I ordered. Begin regulation. After finishing Xander's session, a message from Dr. Sterling came in. Chase is in bad shape. He wants to talk. Too lazy to type. I sent a 2-word voice note. Book appointment. You were the ace duo. Give him one more chance. I looked at the countdown on my terminal. 19 days left. After that, no response. I put away the terminal and realized Xander was still standing there like a wooden stake, eyes darting everywhere except the door. Something else? I asked while washing my hands. He looked at the ceiling, the floor, and finally stared at my hand sanitizer. That sanitizer is nice. He grasped at straws. I nodded. He finally blurted it out, the transition awkward as hell. Speaking of alcohol, do you want to get a drink with dinner tonight? I almost laughed. When did I agree to have dinner with you? He looked like he was risking it all, staring straight at me. In 1 minute, I stared at him with interest, watching his brave smile crumble inch by inch under my gaze. A minute later, I looked up into his nervous, expectant eyes and smirked. We can open a bottle of red. Xander practically marched out of the room, limbs moving in sync like a robot. The door clicked shut gently, leaving behind the residue of his goofy happiness. Just then, my terminal beeped, a mandatory priority booking. Applicant, Chase Brook. Time, 10 minutes. The smile hadn't left my face when the door slammed open, hitting the wall with a bang. Chase stood there in a crisp uniform, face livid. Behind him, Xander had returned, hand on the door handle, face full of hostility. The clinic felt cramped with 2 top-tier sentinels, the air thick with gunpowder. Chase's gaze cut Xander like a knife, then landed on me with a sneer. You'd settle for a loser I beat? I ignored him, looking past him to Xander. Colonel Johnston, your session is over. Xander frowned, body tense as he blocked me. Alert. I'll be on time tonight, I promised him. He didn't move. I lowered my voice. So, I suggest you go prepare carefully. That was the switch. Xander's face exploded red. He shot me a look, hesitated no more, and strode away. The door closed, sealing the room. Chase stared at Xander's retreating back, face darkening further. I agree, he said suddenly. You wanted to have dinner? Garden restaurant. Let's go tonight. I looked at him and shook my head. General Brooke, the garden requires reservations. And I paused. I already have a date tonight. Cancel it. He refused to hear no. I didn't respond, asking professionally, what is the nature of your appointment? Chase's patience snapped. He grabbed my wrist, squeezing hard enough to bruise, but then he froze. His eyes nailed themselves to my neck. There was a fresh hickey. Chase's expression turned ghastly. It was Xander. His voice rasped like sandpaper. The guy on the phone the other day was him. You slept with him. He stated it as fact. He looked up, bloodshot eyes glaring at me. No wonder. No wonder you won't help me. No wonder you want to unbind. Spencer, 10 years of feelings mean nothing compared to some pretty boy you just met. He yanked me toward him, face inches from mine, hissing every word. Are you that desperate to get laid? Looking at Chase's face this close, I laughed. Yeah. Desperate. The air froze. The rage on Chase's face visibly cracked. His grip loosened slightly, lips curling into an arrogant smirk. Why didn't you just say so? He said. If you really need it, beg me properly and I might consider it. I shook off his hand. I didn't sleep with Xander. Chase's smile deepened, as if saying I knew it. I looked him in the eye and enunciated the second half of the sentence. I plan to sleep with him tonight. I turned to leave. Spencer Smith. His roar behind me was completely feral. In a flash, he lunged, clamping onto the back of my neck and biting down hard on the other side. Sharp pain shot through me. I could smell the rust of my own blood. While his teeth were still sunk in my neck, my mental tendrils sliced precisely into his chaotic mindscape. Mental command. Disable all external sensory input. Duration 12 hours. Execute immediately. Chase went rigid like a puppet with cut strings and tipped backward. Thud. He hit the cold floor. He couldn't feel a thing. He was trapped in the cage of his own consciousness. But instinctively, he was still calling my name. Not through his vocal cords, but through the fraying neural link between us, a weak, fading wail. Spencer, Spencer, don't go. I didn't look back. He wasn't the god of war I once admired. He was just a giant infant rolling on the floor because he couldn't accept reality. I stepped over his body and didn't turn around. I had a real date to get to. When I arrived at the restaurant, Xander was already waiting. He was obedient. He had clearly prepared. A fitted dark shirt replaced the stiff uniform. Top 3 buttons deliberately undone to show collarbones and a patch of solid chest. Hair styled to look dangerously handsome. Seeing me, he stood up instantly, eyes shining like they held stars. You're here. I nodded and sat opposite him. But when the light hit me, Xander's smile vanished. His gaze locked onto my neck, where a fresh bite mark sat. He didn't ask. He just silently pushed the menu toward me, voice tight. See, what you like. For the rest of the meal, he struggled to make conversation, the bright excitement gone. Annoying. After dessert arrived, I finally put down my fork. Xander. He looked up. You can ask, I said calmly. He froze. I looked him in the eye. Whatever you want to ask. Ask. I'll answer. Xander stared at me for a few seconds. He did that, didn't he? He finally asked, voice hoarse. Chase. Yes. I didn't hide it. Why? Xander gritted his teeth. What gives him the right? Looking at him, indignant on my behalf but too scared to cross the line, that rebellious itch started again. I leaned forward slightly, staring into his eyes across the table. Because I told him I planned to sleep with you tonight. Xander's head snapped up, shock plastered on his face, lips parted. His expression shifted from shock to disbelief, finally settling on a kind of ignited, burning anticipation. That looked much better. I reached out, fingertips grazing his Adam's apple, feeling the muscle tense and the rapid swallow. So, Colonel Johnston, do you want to help me make that lie the truth? From the restaurant to the car, Xander's scorching gaze never left me. In the elevator, he finally tried hooking his pinky around mine. Currents shot from my hand up my spine. I turned to him. He looked down, long lashes casting shadows. I leaned in and kissed him. When the doors opened, I practically dragged him out, lips locked. I slammed the door shut behind us and pinned him against the entryway cabinet. He finally snapped out of it, tongue clumsily tangling with mine. I laughed, pulling back to gasp, "Can you handle this, Colonel?" In the dim light, Xander's eyes were dangerously bright. Suddenly, he gripped my lower back, iron arms tightening. With one heave, he lifted me off the ground, spinning to pin me hard against the door. Feet dangling, I grabbed his shoulders for balance. His large hands, calloused from guns, cupped my face, thumbs rubbing my jaw. His voice was low, laced with a dangerous aggression ignited by my taunt. "Reporting, sir. Please, verify personally." The next morning, I woke to a burning gaze. Xander's face was inches away. "Breakfast is ready. Do you want to eat food or me?" he asked awkwardly. I pushed him away ruthlessly. "Full thanks." While I checked messages, Xander clung to me again. "So, what are we now?" I looked at him lazily. Provider and client. The light in Xander's eyes died. He bit his lip, asking indignantly, Do you treat all your clients like this?" I laughed out loud. I poked his pectoral muscle hard. "Great texture. Are you kidding? If every client treated me like that, I'd be wrecked." Xander paused, blushing furiously. He grabbed my finger. What does that mean?" My finger slid slowly down his chest, stopping over his heart. I spoke slowly. "It means you haven't worked hard enough. Not enough to make me love him yet, but enough to give him a chance." A day later, Chase used high-level clearance to force an appointment. He brought a huge bouquet of red roses, presumptuously finding a vase to arrange them in. I leaned back, waiting for his performance. "I broke up with Lila," he announced. "I didn't love her at first sight. I don't even like her." "Oh, so you played with her feelings." I nodded. Chase looked at me in disbelief. "Why are you so prickly now?" "I've always been." I shrugged. He took a deep breath, suppressing anger. "I was with her because of you. I saw your reservation confirmation for the garden," he said. Panicked. "I was scared if you confessed, we couldn't even be brothers. So, I rushed to find a girlfriend to make you give up." I was silent for a moment. Then I laughed low. Chase's face fell. "What's funny?" "Chase." I cut him off. "Get out." He ignored me, stepping forward to stare at the mark on my neck. I thought it through. "I'm willing to be with you. As long as you stop seeing Xander, I can pretend nothing happened." "Chase," I said again. "Get out." "Spencer, stop being childish." Chase frowned, acting magnanimous. "I'm your sentinel. We belong together. Isn't this the best ending?" I sneered. "Don't you get it? Our bond is ending. I'm getting a new sentinel." "I don't believe you." Chase shot back. "Besides me, no one can." "I'm very satisfied with Xander," I interrupted, enunciating clearly. "I plan to bond with him." Dead silence. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the office door crack open. Xander stood there, holding a thermos. The shock and raw joy in his eyes were plain to see. I admit I said it partly to spite Chase. But seeing Xander look so pathetic with happiness, I decided making a mistake work out wouldn't be so bad. Chase's face turned ugly. He glared at me like an enraged animal. "Fine," he hissed, shooting a dark look at Xander in the doorway. "Spencer Smith, you better not regret this." I didn't spare him another glance, just curled my finger at the big man by the door. Chase stormed out, slamming the door. Xander walked in, voice dry. "Spencer, I know you just said that to make him mad." "Wow, learning the passive-aggressive playbook already." "You don't want to?" I asked. "I do," he answered loudly, afraid I'd take it back. After that, Xander counted down the days more eagerly than I did. It wasn't smooth. Chase cornered Xander twice. Physically, they were evenly matched. Kai sent me a photo of Chase looking rough, face bruised. Xander came to me for ointment, eyes red-rimmed. What could I do? I applied the meds and told him to move in with me. If I didn't protect him myself, how could I justify his performance? I chose him, I had to pamper him. Chase went to Dr. Sterling, threw his jacket on the desk, and tried to use his rank as a threat. Sterling messaged me. Does Chase actually think I can force you to be with him at gunpoint? Is he 28 or 8? My fault. I spoiled him. When the day to rebond finally came, Xander got nervous. Spencer, think about it again. Don't be impulsive. What if you regret it? Once we bond, I won't agree to unbind easily. If you try to leave me later, it'll kill me. Xander, I stared into his eyes. Are you questioning my judgment? He froze, shaking his head frantically. No, I'm not. Then have some confidence. I cut him off. Because you are the man Spencer Smith chose. His pupils contracted, his breath stopped. I leaned in, nose brushing his, whispering so only we could hear. I do. His eyes reddened instantly. I closed the gap and kissed him. And I've decided to love you. I bonded with Xander, completely severing the neural link with Chase. Chase went feral. He entered a fugue state, his destructive power off the charts. The tower's highest level red alarm blared. Piercing sirens echoed in every corridor. All non-combat personnel were ordered to bunkers. The system's cold voice repeated. S-Class Sentinel Chasebrook, Mindscape collapse. Feral state confirmed. Repeat, S-Class Sentinel Chasebrook is feral. And I was sitting in my clinic, performing the first post-bond consolidation for Xander. The new neural link was a warm river of golden light connecting us. Xander's mindscape was no longer a stormy ocean. The storm had settled. The deep-sea beast retracted its claws, curling tamely next to my spirit animal, its soft tentacles nuzzling me with endless affection and joy. Everything was peaceful. Dr. Sterling was right. Xander's potential was immense. He'd be an Ultra S-Class soon. Outside the heavy soundproof door, chaotic footsteps and shouting guards approached. Then, bang! The door shook violently, rammed by an out-of-control beast. Xander's eyes snapped open. He went instantly alert, moving to shield me. I patted his arm reassuringly and pressed the intercom button. Outside, Chase's roar filtered through the static, mixed with the guards' shouts. Spencer, I'm your priority one. Open the door and help me. I spoke into the mic, tone strictly professional. General Brooke, if you book an appointment now, the next opening is in 6 weeks. Please remain calm and await a temporary guide. I knew exactly what this meant. An S-Class Sentinel going feral with no willing guides meant he was finished. He'd be pulled from the front lines, sent to logistics. The banging outside paused for a second. I turned off the intercom. Silence returned. Xander relaxed after hearing my response. He kissed my forehead gently. Then he stood up, walked to the door still being pounded on, and hit the open switch. The door slid aside. Outside, 7 or 8 heavily armed guards were struggling to restrain a red-eye Chase with high-voltage binders. The once arrogant god of war looked wretched, uniform torn, staring into the room like a caged animal. Staring at me, Xander's tall frame completely blocked his view. He looked down at Chase, voice calm and clear. General Brooke, a guide's priority one is always the sentinel they are bonded to. Chase went rigid, the roar dying in his throat. Xander paused, then stepped slightly aside so Chase could see me over his shoulder. Then, he reached back with possessive intent, grabbing my waist and pulling me flush against him. He pointed at himself. Spencer Smith's sentinel, right now, is me.